Welcome, everyone. Hi, y'all. We're excited to have you here. We want to welcome you to Flatiron School's Coding for Beginners, Murder, Mystery, and Code. My name is Corey Mickelson, and I am the event coordinator here with Flatiron School. A big part of my job is hosting these free introductory workshops, like this evening's event, to give you a better opportunity to meet some of our instructors and get a better feel for the Flatiron School experience. A quick little reminder, we're going to be using the chat as our main source of communication this evening. So make sure you set that little blue button from host and panelist to everyone so we can all chat together. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the host for the evening, the person that came up with this event, Chris. He is one of our lead software engineering instructors. Go ahead and take it away, Chris.
Sure. Let me find, here it is. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Give us a thumbs up. Perfect.
Yes. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to kick this off. We are going to go into, we're going to build a murder mystery game in HTML and CSS. And if there's time, maybe a little bit of JavaScript, but we're going to go through this pretty quickly. Coming out of this, you should be able to make your own murder mystery game in HTML and CSS. We're going to learn all of the tools that you need to build an interesting, kind of like a choose your own adventure game, something that you can interact with, something that you can play with, and something that you can just build off of dynamically. So, hi, everyone. My name is Chris. I am a lead instructor at Flatiron School. If you had to describe me in 2 words, it would be tech and theater. I came from a traditional university background. I majored in computer science, and then I ended up working at Rent the Runway for 6 years. I was a full-time software engineer, and I remember working alongside with people who came from many different walks of life who went to a boot camp, and I was just, we were doing the same projects, and it was always this amazing collaborative experience. So I was really awed by what those boot camps were able to offer in comparison with my own traditional educational background. My first job was a murder mystery improv actor. I kid you not. That was my first real paycheck that was not from my parents. I was working as an improv actor at the Dinner Detective in Southern California. It was like at one of the Ontario hotels, and every Friday they would put on a show, and you would blend in with the audience, and then you'd plant clues and do sketches and skits and stuff like that, and the audience would guess, who done it at the very end. So in the chat real quick, if you can put your either your strangest job you've ever had or your first job that you ever had. Either one.
Brian, I'd like to let you know if you want to switch the little blue button from host and or panelist to everyone, we will all be able to see the chat, but also we will be sending out a recording of this event within 3 business days.
Cool. Lifeguard, carpet cleaner. I've seen videos of those online. They're quite interesting to watch. The level of expertise. Receptionist at a funeral home. All right, on theme for tonight.
Sandwich artist at Subway. Sorry.
Spy interactive tour guide. I love it.
Cemetery plots on the phone. Selling cemetery plots. That's a good one.
These are cool. Okay. So we're going to go through the agenda. So we're going to do a brief intro into HTML and CSS, and then we're going to do a demonstration, and then we're going to have some time at the end for Q&A. So let's look into a very brief intro to HTML and CSS. It is not completely necessary to understand every bit of etymology around these terms. However, it helps to make some of these technologies a little bit more accessible to us if we know what we're getting into. It doesn't, like, for example, knowing exactly how a car works is not necessary to drive it, but it does make it useful to know what you're getting into, and it is helpful when it breaks down. So we're going to do a brief intro about some of the context around HTML and CSS. HTML, let's start off with that. HTML is an acronym that stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So one more time, that is Hypertext Markup Language. You have probably heard of the word hyper before. You have probably seen the word text. You might have come across the word markup. You've definitely come across the word language before. So hyper in this case, it comes from its Greek origins. It means beyond. It means extra. It means, it's like extreme. It's one of those superlatives, right? That intensifies the thing that follows after it. So examples of words that use hyper is like hyperdrive. It's not just a drive, it's a hyperdrive. It's not just a beam, it's a hyperbeam, or what have you. The HTML is best described as a form of document preparation. You use tags for displaying content. And we're going to explain what those mean, what it means to use tags for displaying content. This is nothing to be intimidated by the way. The fact that we use markup, we've been using it for thousands of years. We've been using it to capitalize certain things. We've been using it to bold other words, to italicize. It started out as a set of marks on a particular surface, and that helped the reader understand something about the text. You've seen it in newspapers, you've seen it in books, you've seen it in a lot of textual media. So when printing became established, there was a printing shop could plan changes more creatively, so they could anticipate what was going to be asked of them because they had this markup language, because the text that came to them would be marked up. So they could actually, they could modify the text in a way to make it bold, to make it emphasized, to make it like a subscript, to make it minimized. Some text would be bigger, some text would be smaller. And so they would take advantage of these editorial markup symbols. So when these 19th century printers came up with these typesetting machines that poured lead into molds, the people, you can see them standing around that device, they would use the levers to shift from boldface to plain text to italicize to, oh, this needs to be a title, this needs to be a heading, so on and so on. And then the other technology that we've come across, so just to summarize that, hypertext markup language, the other technology we're going to go over is CSS. So CSS is cascading style sheets. That's what the acronym stands for. Cascading style sheets, CSS. So if you break down that word in and of itself, it is basically the technology that you use to style something, to adorn something, or beautify it, or modify the appearance of it in a particular way. So examples is that this would be like the font color, the background color, how things are positioned. Do you have borders? Do you have square borders, or do you have rounded borders? Things like that. And you'll hear these two technologies combined with JavaScript in a variety of different ways. So it's important to distinguish between these three. So if I were to describe the difference between HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I might use this metaphor. For example, HTML we can think of as the skeleton. We can think of it as the skeleton of our website. This is laying down the skeletal foundation, the framework for all the meat and other things that are going to be laid on top of it, all the substance that's going to be piled on top of it. So it really is the backbone of your web page. I would say JavaScript is akin to the muscles in this metaphor. So JavaScript is your muscles. It allows movement. It allows your web page to be dynamic. It allows things to appear and disappear. It allows your web page to be interactive to the user. If you did not have JavaScript, most likely your web page would be no more dynamic than a static movie poster. It might be pretty, it might be beautiful, but it won't move. There's no buttons, there's no forms, there's no inputs. The last is CSS, and we can think of this as the skin, the styling, the clothing of our web page. So CSS represents it takes care of the appearance overall, how things are dressed. Again, color, borders, and by colors, specifically font color or background color. Those things are determined by your CSS, your styling rules. So let's get into the anatomy of an HTML tag. You're going to see this everywhere when you're making a web page. This is going to be your bread and butter. This is going to be the most common tool you will use to build a web page. So here in the center, you have a sentence. My cat is very grumpy. Nothing crazy going on there. But what else do you see in this HTML, in this whole black box I have here? Besides the sentence, what do you see? You see tags, right? You see two tags to be specific. You see an opening tag at the beginning, and this indicates like this is where this HTML thing starts. And then you also have this closing tag at the end, and that's where you say it ends. So what do you see in these tags? Like what characters are they made up of specifically? Yeah, you see the letter P. You see a less than sign or a left arrow, if that's easier to remember. And then you see a right arrow. So you can zoom in. I wonder if I can zoom in here. I can't. You can zoom in on even on the very innards of an HTML tag. So on the left-hand side, you see a left arrow. In the middle, you usually see letters. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a right arrow. And overall, it's going to look like this. An element is made up of, what would you say an HTML element is made up of, looking at this? Side carrots, it's also a good name for it. I like that, I might use that. Tags and content, yeah. Tags and content, exactly. These are some examples of HTML tags. So the most common one that you'll see, and we'll see examples of all of these in a second. Actually, I have this open. I think I'll just present it this way. I'm going to go over each of these elements one by one. So H1, this is a heading. This is the biggest piece of text that you'll see in an HTML web page. The way heading tags are, when you see H1, that means it's the biggest heading it could be. H1 is the biggest, it's number one. H6 would be the smallest. It's the smallest. It's in sixth place. It's not feeling too good about itself. It's like shrinking away a little bit. So if I do an H1 tag, for example, and I run this, you see hello in big, bold letters. I just have to do a quick sanity check. Can everyone see this browser that I'm showing? Yes, cool, thank you.
If you can increase the size just a little bit.
I can do that.
I think that's good.
Okay. Ooh, okay, cool. Okay, and then I'll do H6. No, H6 is not typically used that often. I'll actually make these the exact same word just to be fair. So you can see the comparison. You see the size difference between these? This is H1, it's number 1, and this is H6. It's even smaller. Okay, the next HTML tag you'll come across is a paragraph tag. Yes, let me post this in the chat. REPL it. Don't sign on and like try and start this right now. There'll be an opportunity to do that. Just follow along for now, and then we're going to get into the code along in just a second. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Paragraph. The next one is a paragraph tag. So we're going to see that. So paragraph tag is what we saw earlier. My cat is very grumpy. And we can see it just looks like normal text, right? It looks different. How does it look different from the heading tags? How does this paragraph tag look different from the heading tags? Looks not bold, right? Yeah, don't code along just yet. We're going to have an opportunity for that later on. A button is another element that you'll see most often for interactivity. So I'm just going to pull from here. I'll do something that does something immediately. Typically, you'll see a button done like this. There's going to be some words here that we have not gone over. There's going to be some tools here that we haven't discussed yet. And that's okay. But this bit of text will we'll talk about later. Basically, what this button allows is it just gives you a button. When you click it, it's going to show something, right? Something's going to pop up. So I have this little button right here. You can see it has like a little border and then it's gray in the center. I click on it and then this pop-up shows up. So that's an example of a button element. We also have an image element. So we can do an example of an image right here. And typically images look like this. If you just run the image element, it doesn't have a closing tag, right? It doesn't need a closing tag. However, it does need an SRC. It needs a source. So in this case, it's actually very helpful in the sense that it's letting me choose a source from the left-hand side. So I have some pictures on the left-hand side. For example, I have crime scene, right? So we're going to see that in just a second when we build our murder mystery. We're going to run that. And you're going to see it actually gives me this picture. So I did image src equals crime scene.png. And then last but not least, we have an anchor tag. And an anchor tag is, let's see if we can go into the etymology here a little bit. What do you think of when you hear the word anchor? Boats, ship. What does an anchor do? Keeps you in place. Yeah, exactly. So I'll do a brief intro into this. We did say that we were going to talk about Chrome DevTools, so I'll do a brief foray into this. We're just going to choose a featured article. Today's topic is going to be Rachel Dyer. We're going to see what anchor tags do, and we're also going to learn about this tool that software engineers use a lot. It's called DevTools. DevTools, DevTools. And when you open this up, it's going to look slightly intimidating in terms of all the information you see there. There's no need to get intimidated. We're only going to look at a small subset of the information that's going on there. That being said, you know, if you're curious, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Like, you can really mess with the website by using this tool. So that's what I hope you come away with, is this curiosity and fascination for all the cool things you can do on the web. The way to access DevTools, there's a number of ways to do it. We're going to go over what I understand to be the simplest one. I'm doing this on Chrome, so I'm going to right-click on this page, and I'm going to inspect it. If at any point you get lost during this demo, this will be recorded so you can try these things out on your own. I'd rather you follow along than get lost. But if you are following along, you are able to access developer tools or whatever the equivalent is for your browser. You can feel free to open this up as well. But the main thing here is to understand anchor tags, right? So if I right-click on this page, I see inspect. So I clicked on inspect, and it brought up all of this information. So I'm actually looking at this web page right now. It is a lot of information, but what do you notice is familiar? That's what we're really interested in, right? What do you notice that's familiar? Do you see anything you see an anchor tag? Exactly. You see divs, you see all the tags, opening and closing tags, right? That we saw earlier. And this is a professional site. So this is, you know, obviously there's going to be a lot of things that we haven't come across yet. We also see a console here at the bottom. There's also an H1. If you look at that, our H1 is there. If we hover over any one of these HTML elements, what do you notice happening on the left-hand side in the browser? It highlights it. Exactly. It highlights it. So this is effectively, we're no longer just passengers in the car. We're learning to be mechanics. We're learning to get our hands dirty and to look directly at the source code here. Now, if I right-click on this, there's another way. So if you click on this little mouse here, I'll highlight this. So if you see where my mouse is, if I click on this, I can actually hover over any element in this browser, and it'll just bring me right there in the source code. So I can click on that, for example, and now I have all of this available to me. If I right-click on this, I can actually expand recursively. So let's click. So I clicked on this little thing, and now it's blue, this little mouse inside of a square. Oh yeah, if you click on this, you can pretend to be a cell phone, right? If you click on this toggle device, you can pretend your browser is a cell phone or a mobile device. So anchor tags, if you, this actually isn't the best example. That's okay though. If I look for, okay. I think we'll actually just for the sake of time, because I want to maximize how much how much time we use to make the murder mystery game. I think I'll just jump over and I'll mention that anchor tags are ways of linking your web page. So we're going to see an example of that. I think it's better to show rather than tell, than talk about it. So the anatomy of an anchor tag usually looks like this. Again, you have your opening and closing tags. So you have your opening and your closing tags. In the middle, you're going to have content here. You're going to have content here. In this case, this href, this is called a hyperlink reference. That's what this stands for, href. You hear that word hyper again. If we run this, scroll all the way down. I don't know if you can see this. It's a little bit small, but if you scroll all the way down, it'll take us to another page. So these hrefs, these anchor tags, and their hyperlink references basically bring us to another page. So this is bringing me from the index.html to the victim's room. So that's how I traveled from the index web page to the victim's room web page. We'll touch a little bit on styling. So with styling, there is this is a CSS, and just as a could someone remind me what CSS stands for? What it does? I totally forgot. Cascading style sheets. Why is it important? Why do we care? Styling or beautifying the web page, changing the color. Exactly. So what do you think these styling rules do? What do you think these two? It gives the pizzazz. That's exactly right. Changes the color of the text, and it also changes the font, probably makes it bigger or smaller, depending on what the number is. So let's see an example of that right now. Do styles.css, and then we'll copy what we saw there. So we did h1, and what do we have? Color underscore red. We'll start simple, start small for now. And then we'll go here. And in my head, so I made a new tag called head, and this is basically where I put like metadata. I'm just going to bring in this style sheet. So I have the style sheet, but so I'm going to take this out real quick. If I run this web page, I'm not going to, nothing's changed, right? This hello has not turned red yet. So this is a href. If you see the word href, which stands for hyperlink reference, you can think of it as the location, like where, like what are you trying to get? So in this case, this anchor tag is like, hey, if you click on this tag, if you click on this link, it's going to take you to the victim's room. So this style sheet, this link tag, is basically like, this is where your style sheet is located. So in this case, it's going to be styles.css. All right, do you see anything different? Red hello, exactly. So this style sheet just made our heading red. And that P also makes the color black. Okay. I think what I want to do is I might go over classes and IDs. I'll skim through these, and then we're going to get right into the murder mystery. So classes and IDs, these are ways of specifying what HTML elements. Oh, actually, let me take a moment to look over the chat. Why is only one of the headings red and not both? Ah, okay. Excellent. Thank you, Lori and Cortland. That's exactly right. If we look at the styles.css, I don't have an H6. I don't have an H6. In fact, now that I do, so we're going to watch this very carefully. Watch that very carefully. That's our H6, our tiny little H6 over there. I'm going to back up. I'm going to run. And now you can see that there's a purple hello as opposed to the red H1 over here. Okay. So classes. There's two ways to target a bunch of elements, right? It's not enough that there's all these separate kinds of elements, right? For example, what if I had a paragraph tag? I had two paragraphs, right? My cat is very grumpy. My cat is very happy. But I don't, like, I want one to look different from the other, right? Let's say that I go back here and let's say that, I want the color to be, I'll say green, right? If there's anyone with color blindness, let me know a different color. I can change this too, so it's accessible to everybody. When I said to make these paragraphs green, it made all the paragraphs green. So I want a way to distinguish between those two. And there's two ways to do this. And one way is classes, and the other is ID. So when you hear the word class, what does that remind you of? What associations does the word class have? A group, right? A category. A section, exactly. So here, it's specifying like what interesting syntax do you see here? Like, what is this prefixed with? It's not like a caret. It's not a left arrow. It's prefixed with a period. That's the thing to pay attention to. So here, for example, we have a class called highlight that we've called. And if you zoom in, I can't zoom in on a Google slideshow, but if we look at this H1, for example, it gives us a highlight class. And this paragraph tag also has the highlight class. So what do you see is being highlighted, i.e., which of these is given the background color yellow and which ones are not? I'll take this moment to actually plug in because I'm on low battery. Exactly. This first paragraph tag is not highlighted. So veggies s bonus vobus, whatever that means, is not highlighted. This span class, Welsh onion, is highlighted. That's just one example, right? You also see it with class selectors. And then you also see it with gumbo, beet greens, and then everything that follows afterwards, right? So for example, one more time, gumbo, beets, greens, this whole thing is highlighted because of that class. So there's multiple things that, there's multiple HTML elements that are given the styling property. Now, in contrast, there's IDs, right? And these target a single unique element. When you hear the word ID, what real world associations do you have with something like an ID? What kind of IDs do we have in real life? A passport. A driver's license. Yeah, and SSN, a social security number. A school ID, right? These are for one student. Or if it's a work badge, it's one employee, right? So IDs are unique. Let me catch up on the chat. You can name your class. Can you name your class anything? Yeah, you can name your class anything as long, you know, you can name it Jabberwocky. You can name it Fubar. You can name it Gilgamesh. It can be any name you want. General rule of thumb is to make it useful. So for example, we saw the class name highlight, and that meant that something was being highlighted. So in this case, what is being highlighted here? We have the same highlighting going on. So let's focus on this one for now. Yeah, the second P element, right? The second paragraph, not the first one, not the first one. That doesn't get the background color yellow. The second one does. And then we also see some styling going on with the first one, but hopefully that should give the general idea. Okay, cool. We are actually going to start this code along. We're going to start the murder mystery. We're going to start building a site. I'll put this link in the chat.
I can drop it in the chat again for you.
Say again?
Oh, I said I can drop it in the chat for you.
Okay, thank you. This one I'll give it a couple minutes for people to get set up. We won't have time to completely troubleshoot it. So if you can't get it wired up and you have to make an account or something, it's okay. You can be in the passenger seat and then you can try this again later on your own, or you can follow along with the recording again. The most important thing is that you're at least exposed and introduced to this information, right? These resources will be available even after this event, and there'll be tons of time to play around at your own pace, right? So you can try these things out at your own pace. Yes, exactly. So most likely when you come to this website, you're going to see a bunch of files. And so I'm doing this through incognito so I can pretend to be a new user. So let's navigate this. Okay, so it does allow you to like play with this. So if we show files, these will be back here. If you want to edit this, you can fork this as well. But that requires sign up So you would have to go through this flow. And if you don't feel like coding along right now, that's okay. You can see what the changes are going to look like. So at the very end of this, at the end of the event, you'll see all the code that we've written out. You'll see the end result if you come back to this link later after I save it. I even have some likes. I have 6 likes apparently, or we have 6 likes on this project. So yeah, fork REPL if you want to mess around and code along, or you can just wait until the end and you'll see the end result and you can mess with it and build off your own. I would actually encourage that. It's like follow along and then watch the, and then after it's done, put your own twist or add your own murder mystery rooms and pieces of evidence and suspects afterwards, right? Using the end result as like a guide that you can copy paste and put your own twist on it. But either case, we're going to dive right into this. So we're going to build a murder mystery. We have to start this off. So we have to start off this introduction. And the first thing that every murder mystery starts off with is an announcement. Oh my gosh, there's been a murder, and there's a gasp, right? Can I see a gasp in the chat? Dun, dun, dun. Perfect. We have to announce this in big font though, because this is not like, we're not whispering this. Thank you, everyone. So which tag should we use to announce this, that there's been a murder? H1, exactly. So H1, there's been a murder. Who saw this coming? And then in this here, we're going to start writing out some details. So the way we do that is through the paragraph tag. And let's describe this scene. So you walk into a room and it's a crime scene, right? Unfortunately, there has been a murder, in Murderville, right? Who could have known? What clues do we see? What does this room look like? This is more of a creative writing exercise at this point. Blood. Okay. Fingerprints. And the outline of a body. Awesome. So I'm going to add in another tag here. You'll see the word strong. I could have also done this through styling, but I'll just say, actually, no, I'll just leave this out. Let's keep this simple. Oh no. You walk into a room and there's blood, fingerprints, and the outline of a body. Okay. There's a bloody knife, even though the victim was shot. Ooh, a note. I like a note. Okay. There's something fun we can do with that. So we need to, we want to provide an option to examine the evidence. So I think what we'll do is a note is lying nearby. Let's create an anchor tag to allow us to take a closer look at this note. So the way we'll do that is by typing A, and then this is an anchor tag at the end of the day. And then we'll have a hyperlink reference. And then we'll call this evidence.html. And we'll say examine note. Coding.
I'm going to
screen.
remove your self view.
Remove my self view.
Yeah. So the screen will be bigger so they can see the code.
Yes. Thank you. Wait, is that better? Okay, cool. As long as you guys can see the code, that's the most important thing at the end of the day. So we're able. Let's look at this note. Let's look at this note. And right now, if I run this, I see, oh no, there's been a murder. And then I see a bunch of clues. This is Christmas themed at the moment, so we're going to change that. We're going to take out the green. Okay, now it looks more murder mystery. Okay. And now we want to look at this note. Right now, it's not showing anything. So let's see if we can examine this note. What does this note say? You caused this. Okay, what else? Let's put this in a paragraph tag. I warned you. If you would have paid. Okay. Money is behind. I'm trying to keep up with these. Is hidden behind, and then just ellipses. I don't need 4 paragraph tags. I'm just kind of doing it so that each one is on a different line.
They're like, love, mom.
Love, mom. Okay. What was the other one? I'll just keep it there. This is good. This is good. Let's just keep it here. So if I go to this index.html and I run this, oh no, there's been a murder. Let me take out this redundant oh no. You walk into a room, there's blood, fingerprints, and the outline of a body. There's a bloody knife, even though the victim was shot. A note is lying nearby. And then we see this link, this anchor tag. So this anchor tag is allowing this ability to travel to go to this web page where we can take a closer look at the note, right? And that file name we saw is evidence.html. So evidence.html, boom, right there. Now here's a tricky thing. If I end up at this page, this evidence.html page, I have no way to get back. If I go here, it's just blank. Like I'm at a dead end basically. So anyone have any ideas on what tag I can put here to go back? Yeah. Make another anchor tag. Cool. And what will that look like? What do I need to put here? href. Cool. Same link, but to the index. Exactly. Good job, everybody. So we'll say go back. If I run this, I'm at the, so on the right-hand side, oh no, there's been a murder. And then I examine note. It says you caused this. I warned you. The money is behind. Ellipses, and then love, mom. And go back. Cool. So now we have a way to go back and forth. That's a dynamic. See, already we have a dynamic, interesting, interactive murder mystery game. Let's make this. Let's add some images here. So I'll do an example of. So we'll use the image tag here. We'll do murder mystery background. See if I can run this. Whoa. So this is way too big. This is way too big. Conceptually speaking, does anybody have any ideas on what we can do about this using what we've already known? Like what tool or technologies? CSS, right? So this has to do with our, yeah, this has to do with the size. So we're gonna have to add some kind of styling rule here. So what I'll do here is I'll add a styling rule. And here I'm just gonna affect the width. I do see a question in the chat, and I will get to that in just a second. So this image tag, I have a styling rule that says, like, if it's an image element, I am going to make the width 100% of this screen, right? So it's gonna force it to fit inside of this screen. If I do 50, as opposed to the original size, right? If we look at the original size of this image is huge. Okay, it doesn't show. I minimized it in the viewer. But if I look at this, if I were to look at the source file for this, it's actually very big. And if I plop that right into my web page, it's just going to show the image as is, and it's going to be too big for the web page. So I have to add a styling rule that says, hey, no, I want you to meet like I want you to meet only 100% of the browser. If I do 50%, then it shrinks it, right? It says I'll only take up 50% of the width. Not 1,000. So do this. Question: when do you use an anchor tag versus a button? Cool. So let's put, so an anchor tag is what you use to go to another location. You can, if you just have a button, it doesn't do anything in and of itself, right? I have to put some decks here. I'm a button. If I run this, I'm a button. If I click it, nothing happens. However, I can, and this is mainly for styling purposes, I can wrap this, I can put this link inside of a button. And that allows me to, so speaking at a higher level, it allows me to leverage, if I style buttons a certain way, it allows me to treat buttons as links to other pages. So anchor tags are still your way to travel between links. So a link to an external website or a link to an internal website, an internal web page. On the left-hand side, you see these are internal web pages. Index.html, evidence.html, victimsroom.html. These are all internal web pages. The cool thing you can do, there is extra functionality that you can do with the button that is not available to an anchor tag, however. So let's add, what's another clue? Someone give me another murder mystery clue. Anchors can be for external or internal. There's a doll. Okay. That's creepy. All right. So there's a doll. So let's add another button. And we'll say, okay, examine doll. So this is not going to be another web page, right? We're just going to say pick up and examine the doll. And let's make this say something now. So what we saw before was we had this, so each of these things, this type equals string button, you know, each of these things, they're attributes of this button element. We can go more into detail about that later. But for now, the functionality we can use to make this thing pop something out to show that window of text is this bit of code right here. So I'll see if I can zoom in on this. So I have a button, nothing unusual there. But now I can say onClick equals, and then this is actually a bit, we're getting into JavaScript territory. So going back to that analogy between HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, with those three figures we saw, what was JavaScript, right? If HTML was a skeleton and CSS was the skin and clothing, what was JavaScript? JavaScript was the muscles, yeah, in this case, in that particular metaphor. It allowed you to do things, right? So now we're starting to introduce JavaScript, which allows you to do dynamic, interactive things. Okay. So pick up and examine doll. I now have this button right here. So you'll see here, I have this little pop-up, right? So what happened? What did I just do? What's going on? Besides the ambulance you might be hearing outside my window right now. I'm hoping there hasn't been a murder in this neighborhood as we speak. Yeah, we created an alert. We created a button, and that button had some behavior now. So we added some muscle. So let's pick up this doll. What do we see when we pick up and examine the doll? There is Andrew. That would be more complex. A camera. One of the eyes upon, so okay, I'll say this. Upon closer inspection, one of the eyes is a camera. Oh my gosh. God, this is a creepy doll. All right, let's do a pull string. When you pull the string, it begins to sing a song. Happy Halloween, everybody. So there you have it. When you click on that button, it gives you that message. Upon closer inspection, one of the eyes is a camera. When you pull the string, it begins to sing a song. All right, we'll stop there. Can you make the window play a song? That is some advanced JavaScript. You do need it. In this case, this is just like the shortest, simplest way I can think of to have this show some text that then disappears when you close out of that window, right? This just it gives you like a cheap little pop-up modal that goes away for free. That's what that alert does. If you wanted to make this more, if you wanted like a more powerful tool, you'd probably add some kind of event listener that would hide or appear a bit of text or some kind of HTML element, some kind of paragraph tag, that then shows you, the creepy bit of text we just had, and then hides it after you click out of it. So you can write some JavaScript code that does the same thing in a more sophisticated way. Would you use CSS to make the background black and orange? We can. So, for example, let's look at this, H1. So we can make this H1, let's make this H1 background color black. I forget if it's background dash color. No, that's not it. CSS background color. Background hyphen color. Cool. So I guess another thing I can say is like, I'm Google searching right now. I hit something that like, oh, I can't remember exactly how this is done. I can't remember exactly how it's spelled. I don't expect myself to have perfect memory of everything. What I have is the right set of questions that allows me to search for what I want and then retrieve that information from, this big library of information. I'm less concerned about memorizing things because I can look that up. But what I have is a toolbox that allows me to do critical thinking or creative things. And then I use things like this as a reference. So this is how you spell it, right? Background dash color. So let's see. Let's get that to work. So now I'm thinking like, okay. Oh, this is a comment. So what I'm doing a shortcut right now. Comments are basically like, it turns it from code into like little post-it notes for the developer or for the reader, right? So this doesn't exist. When this source file when this CSS file becomes processed, this disappears. Comments disappears. They're just sticky notes that are little notes for the human beings. As soon as they get processed, they disappear. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a very lazy way of making that disappear. I'm trying to see if I can, cool. So now I'm experimenting a little bit, right? So I'm experimenting a little bit, being like, why is this working? Why is this not working? So the first thing I'm doing is like, I got that background color to change. So, and this is like probably one of the most useful things you can take out of any kind of whatever technical education you do, is the right series of questions and the ability to critically think and be a scientist, right? To form theories and then test them. This is broken. I was expecting this, but I got this. Why do I think that's happening? What can I do to test it? So right now I'm trying to isolate the number of variables and then slowly start to bring them back. So I want the background color to be black, but I still want the text color to show, because right now it's also black. So the next thing I'll Google for is CSS, not background color, but what's like a term I can put in here? Font color. So let's see if I can get the font color. So that should give me that's interesting. All right. So other lesson is, what I am doing is, if I'm trying to build something, I'm looking for a simple example. So I'm looking at their simple example and I see that this is working. Ah, yes, you guys are so smart. I'm missing a semicolon. That was actually the question I was going to do. I was going to ask is like, what difference do you see between this and the other thing? And the answer is, oh, there's semicolons here. That's the character that I need to get this to work. Excellent. Thank you, chat. So now this should start working. And I should take this out, right? Because I saw in that other reference that it was saying color. And just like that, now we're getting on theme. Okay. What else? What else can we do? Your code can and will get broken by one character. So another cool thing that I encourage you as aspiring software scientists to do, when you're trying to understand software, one of the most productive things you can do to really learn and understand something is you can break it intentionally, often. Software is cool like that. It's fun like that in the sense that you have this virtual thing that you can just break over and over again and understand it that way. One of the ways you can learn to understand a pocket watch, for example, so you pick it up and you can throw it at the wall and you can see the innards of it to see how it ticks. It's not the only way to understand it, but it's a fun way to understand it, right? So I'm now going to intentionally break this code. So one of the ways is I can like, well, does it actually need a semicolon? And I can, remove that and it breaks. So I'm intentionally breaking my code to see like, what does it need? What is it like? What breaks it, right? So I now know this needs a semicolon, especially if there's multiple styling rules, right? Because this is the first element that I have that needed. Yeah, that's right. There's no Control Z for a pocket watch. So the virtual things, the virtual pocket watches can be broken over and over again. And then you take a pocket watch, and then you take a class on watch repair. What other ways do you see that I can break this? Any suggestions on other ways I can break this? Either the styling sheet or even our index.html. We can remove the brackets. We can remove curly brackets. So let's remove one of these, right? I'm going to remove one curly bracket, see what that does. Nothing has visibly broken yet. So let's take that to another level. Let's remove another curly bracket and see what happens. What do you see? Yeah. Mayhem. So let's bring that back because this is scary. It's the real Halloween horror, right? Is a broken website. Can you code with CSS, JavaScript, and HTML all on the same platform? So you can do it all on the same page right here. So one way we could have done this, let's say that like we forgot to, so we'll add a CSS and a JavaScript thing, right? So I'll take out the image styling rule we had in our styles.css. I could actually put it inside this HTML file. I don't recommend this, but you can do it. And that will look like this. Style. So I'm making the styling rule inside of here. So first I should do what I'll call like red-green testing. If I want to see if something is, if this change I'm going to make is going to make a difference, the first thing I want to do is like, I want to break it first. And then I want to see if my fix heals it. So the first thing I did to break it is, what did I do over here? What did I do just now? I removed the size requirement. What do I expect to have happen now that I've intentionally taken away that styling rule? Yeah, the pick is going to be way too big. So right now it's looking pretty, it looks nice, and now it's a disaster, right? It's absolute mayhem. So now, and only now, am I actually going to get in here, and I'm going to see if I can change the styling on this through the HTML file. So what do you know? When I change the style this way, using this syntax, it allowed me to fix the image size. In terms of JavaScript, you can put in JavaScript inside of your HTML file. Usually you'll want to separate. So you see how we have all of these things in separate files, like the CSS is in its own file, and that allows us to put all the CSS stuff in here. If you put it in a single HTML file, it starts to look monolithic, but you can put JavaScript in here. I have to ask myself if like I have to put anything after the script tag, but we'll do something simple, like we'll say, let's see if we can get this to show up. So we're going to write a bit of JavaScript here, and this is just going to print out the words hello world, nothing more, nothing less. I'm going to do a quick sanity check and see. So script tag JavaScript, right? So it seems like it doesn't need anything after it. And here, I wonder if it'll give me the console. Okay, so we're going back to what we went over. I'm actually pretty glad we did this. We're going to go back over what we went over originally. We're going back to this inspect. I think there's a simpler way to like view the console in this that's a little bit more user friendly. Oh, there is actually. Sorry. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Toggle developer tools is right there. Let's look at this. Oh, would you look at that? What do you see? What do you see pop up? Hello world in the console. So if you've done this, congratulations, you just wrote your first line of JavaScript code, right? That's it. That's all you got to do. One other thing. Okay. Oh, so this is great. We have an elements. Oh, and it looks so much better than the normal one you get with Google Chrome. Yeah, let's check this out. I wonder if I can increase the size of this. I can't at the moment. So I'm going to toggle highlight. So it does allow me to navigate a bit. Oh, console.log. Yeah, it's for debugging. It's like, well, something's broken and I don't understand why. So let's inspect this paragraph. One of the things you can do in this developer tools is you can actually add you can mess with this. You can mess with this directly and you can add in styling rules. I can't do it through the developer tools in REPL. So I'll actually go back to Wikipedia and I will start using it. I'm going to mess with stuff over here. So this heading, for example, it's fine, but it needs a little pizzazz. So we're going to see if we can make this more exciting. So I went to the Styles tab. Your mileage may vary. Your window may look a little bit different. But one more time, I'm going to the Styles tab in here. And if you want to know how I got to this developer tools, in my case, I used Google Chrome. I right-clicked and then I clicked inspect. And then I brought this up. What's a background color I can make this to make it a little bit more exciting, this background color? Orange. Great. And would you look at that? Our code is now, our web page is now showing orange. So you can mess with web pages through developer tools. So you're now turning from being a passenger in a taxi to being a mechanic who can make their own cars. That's the transformation we're making. It does, I know it probably might be a little bit intimidating looking at all this code and all these tools, but that is part of becoming an engineer. If you style something in HTML, is it affected by changes? CSS will override the HTML typically. Actually, actually, let's verify that. So cascading style sheets, I know. I believe it's the later rule will override that, but that's a good question. I'm going to do a couple tests here. So cascading, I believe, is like the latest rule. The one at the bottom will be the source of truth. It'll be the one that actually goes into effect. So if I have two styling rules that are the same for whatever strange reason, let me get out of developer tools. I run this. So yes, cascading. There's a bunch of styling rules from top to bottom. This last one is going to take precedent. So if I go back to index.html, let's say that I make this, we'll say this is green, right? So this is the part of being a scientist. We have a question. We have a bunch of styling rules. Does the CSS take precedent or does the HTML take precedent? So we're going to test that theory. So we're going to run, you can place your bets on which one it's going to be. Is it going to be green? Or is it going to be red? Or is it going to be white? So we're going to run this. Lo and behold, it's going to be green. Yeah, let's mess around with this a little bit more. I'm not sure how much more time we have. There's a lot of ways we can break this pocket watch. So
we are at the 3-minute mark, but if you
Okay.
have some stuff that you want to finish up, we can, if anybody needs to leave, they can, and then we can wrap up with whatever we're going through.
So it seems like regardless of the order that you put these in, that green is going to take precedence. It's going to take priority. The sanity code check I did. Sanity code check. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I need more context. I do a lot of sanity checks. Part 2. I have to. Not sure about that. I'll have to get back to you, or Corey will get back to you on that. Yeah, Lori, that's a good interpretation. Where the CSS in the HTML, we're writing the CSS directly inside the HTML, and that ultimately takes precedent. So at this point, you can now take this REPL, you can fork it, and now you can add your own web pages. You can add your own rooms, right? You can add your own choose your own adventure features, right? So you can spec things, you can add images, you can add whatever you want your murder mystery game to look like, whatever clues and whatever kind of flow you want to question the suspects and then find the culprit.
I guess they were asking if there was going to be a part 2 of this. They want you back.
It's not scheduled at the moment.
You're not getting out of these. See what you did? You've got them hooked. Part 2. Oh my gosh, see, look at that. Demanded.
Not able to get in at all.
Jasna, we'll be sending out the link, so you'll have time to be able to play with that again. So all the materials that were used, the deck, and then the link for the Replit account, we'll be sending all of that out along with the recording.
I enjoyed coding with you all. This was a lot of fun, and you guys are such a great audience. You guys were really active and on top of it. Yeah, it would be cool to like flesh this out and just build a murder mystery at the end of the day.
We might have to do a 2-part series at some point. This is what you get for coming up with a fun event. You just have to keep doing it.
I know. I know.
You dug your own grave, sir.
Can you please explain the rule on using double quotes? Like if you put type equals button, you don't need double quotes. However, if you do style, Joey, that's a good question. So just to recap, Joey's question, Joey was pointing out that we don't really need quotes around, for example, this. So if I run this, this works just fine. In fact, if I take it off here too, I'm willing to bet it'll continue working. Yeah, so if I pick up and examine this doll, it still gives me the pop-up. If I examine note, would you look at that? It takes me to the evidence. However, on here, I do need these double quotes. In fact, it'll error out. So that's a good job on breaking the pocket watch. So this will just do all sorts of weird stuff. And the answer is how it's being parsed. So this is being parsed in a particular way. When this file is processed from left to right, the characters, as we saw before, every character is important. This needs to be a left-facing caret, right? This has to be a less than sign. So left arrow, and then it has to be followed by the image name, right? And this has to be spelled correctly, not IMAG, not IMGZ, right? This has to be IMG. And then after that, it has to have a style that's like an actual It has to have an attribute that's an actual attribute. So this would be wrong. And then it has to have an equal sign, right? Not a colon. You can even see how the color, if you can see it, it might be a little tricky to see, but the color is changing depending on what I type in here. If it's incorrect, the color of the syntax doesn't look quite right. This has to be surrounded. So likewise, this has to be surrounded by double quotes, because otherwise, when the processor comes to this equal sign and then this colon, it's going to get confused. It doesn't know how to interpret it. Whereas if I surround this with double quotes, this understands that all of this information is encapsulated here and only here. It doesn't apply to anything else. I'm not trying to start another attribute. This is crystal clear to the processor that this styling attribute is only contained within those double quotes.
Okay, well, if there aren't any further questions, we can go ahead and wrap up. It looks like people are starting to drop their information in the chat, so I'll give them just a minute to continue with that. They want to continue working on this, so that's a great sign. But
yes,
thank you, Chris.
And Joey, that's exactly right. If we take out this, that's an excellent observation. If we take out this, it'll work again, because the processor will understand that it's contained. As soon as we introduce that space, it like gets unhappy. So yes, good job on breaking the pocket watch. Corey is dropping a REPL link. Send us a copy of the chat. That's actually not a bad idea.
I will look into that. I know that we have it, but it's I have not done it yet, so I'll see what I can find for y'all. Is there a way to open the code in editor?
Open the code in the editor. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who was active in the chat and was on top of answering these questions. We had a lot of participants, and we had a lot of activity, so we had a lot of conversation. So I'm glad you guys were able to talk to each other and engage. I'm grateful for that. What shortcut did I use to move code up and down quickly? I hold down the Option key. So I'll just say I hold down the Option key on my Mac, and then I up or down arrow keys. So I hold the Option key and then I press down. So I'm holding the Option key right now, and then I go up or down. Option or Alt on another keyboard. To comment things out. To comment things out, I pressed, what did I do? I did Command and this /. So if I wanted to comment out lines 18 through 20, I pressed Command and then /. Okay. I think Corey and the rest of the team here have to go home to their families. So yes. I think we're going to close this out.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone else who zoomed in to join us this evening. So if you have any further questions about Flatiron School, I'm going to drop a link and you can schedule a chat with our amazing admissions team. I also added a link to our events page. So if you want to come and see another event, I know that next month, November, we're going to be doing Intro to React. So that's another really cool topic. And then all of our previous events, they are on our YouTube channel. I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. This is going to be where we post it so you can see the original murder mystery and code event we did back in April, and then we'll have this one out to y'all within the next 3 business days. So we hope you have an amazing night, and we hope to see you at another event soon. Thank you. Bye, y'all.